So I thought, what would be, if my calling is to be a teacher, what would be the optimum kind of learning environment? Well, number one, a classroom or a learning environment in which they're not graded. What grades did was not give a student the opportunity to fail. That is, they gave them, you would give them a B or a C, but they had never really come to terms enough with the subject matter, so that their work was really too shoddy to be either useful or artistic. So I thought, no grading system, and no tests. But that if we could collaborate on some common problems, then in a way, if they would be letting other people down within the classroom. In other words, for instance, as it's turned out, for instance, we're doing this research at the Land Institute. Students are given experiments that they're to do. They've got to weed and water and pollinate and harvest and gather the data and analyze the data and have it available for publication. And what that does is and they're all cooperating on the different experiments, so that the pressure is coming from the whole group,
from the community,
rather than the industrial model where you got the professor up front, the students arranged in rows out there, and they're only answering to him or her. So we give no certificate at the Land. They're coming to a school of thought, so to speak. So they are there. There's a selection process of those that are not oriented toward the credential. And it seemed to me that this is a sensible kind of educational experience. Now, you can say, well, that's fine for you. You've got your credentials. And I'm not saying they should not go on and get credentials, but I also think that it's valuable to people that are willing to interrupt their credentializing process and do something that doesn't credentialize, but that at the same time enlarges the intellectual life and ties it to the real physical world where they actually are doing work.
Failure in that community under those circumstances would be a very different ballgame than getting a low grade on a report card.
Right. Failure is, see, one of the things I noticed as a coach is that when I was coaching sports is that those that were involved in the sport, whether it was track or football or basketball, seemed to be throwing more of themselves into that than when they were than in the classroom work. Well, their exams were weekly in public, and there's something about that that is to constantly having people exposed to a larger world than just what's on the test. Students writing papers that are for exercise versus papers that are to be published. The mind is concentrated in a fundamentally different way.
To be aware of the audience.
Right.